Want to welcome everybody to. Nice to see all kinds of faces on tonight. Thank you for coming on. I want to take a moment to welcome you all to another episode of What the Fuck Paranormal Chat with the Naked Bigfoot. I am your humble host, Mike the Naked Bigfoot. Let's give everybody a minute who wants to tune into the live to pop in. And then we'll do our routine, which of course is updates, and then intro, and then tonight's festivities. I know everybody's been looking forward to this one. Welcome, everybody who's in the chat. Everybody who's in the chat, thank you for coming on live tonight. Amy, Papa Joey, good to see you guys. Brianna, everybody who's here tonight, good to see you. Good to see you, Chris. Everybody's here. Stephanie's here. Whoop whoop. Stephanie's here. Yay. I am here. I exist, Papa Joey. Thank you for asking. Oh, your cat's watching today. I'll try not to scare your cat too much today. Sunday. Sunday's in the house. Sunday. Good to see everybody coming on tonight. Being active tonight. It's always fun to have an active audience. All right, let's start, guys. Quick update. Here on the farm, we're in the middle of harvesting fall crops, including apples, pears, and shit like that. Corn, you name it, we're harvesting everything right now. So what's really, and pumpkins. Oh, don't get me started about the fucking pumpkin patch. Pumpkin patch is an annual tradition here on the Naked Bigfoot's farm. So I've learned to despise the pumpkin patch, but I'll have to tell you guys that another day. It's a story for another day. Alrighty. Looks like we got lots of people signed on tonight on the live. Good to have you. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you. Heavy metal is here. It's so good to see you tonight. But it stopped raining and there's no humidity, and it stopped raining. It's really dry on the farm, so it makes for it kind of cheapens the harvest a little bit. So we're gonna still harvest a shit ton, but it won't be as juicy or as amazing as it would be if we still had good rain happening. So it's kind of annoying. Okay, that's it for the updates on that. If you hear the fan in the background, there is a fan in the background. Okay. Because everybody knows right now I go between hot and cold flashes throughout the evening whenever I do a show. So the fan is here for my protection and my comfort. Alrighty, let's start, guys. We got a good audience tonight. Let's start. Alrighty, let's start with the disclaimers. The views and opinions expressed on tonight's show are solely those of Mike the Naked Bigfoot, who is myself. Mine and nobody else's. My show is not here to harm you physically, mentally, spiritually. My shows are designed to both be educational and entertaining. If you happen to leave one of my shows with an intense curiosity about this crazy, wonderful world that we live in and want to go out and explore it firsthand yourself, then I feel like I have done my job, and I encourage you to do so. But I encourage you to do so both safely and sanely. Do not do any of the crazy shit that I did. I mean, you can do it, but try to do it a little bit more safely. How I survived all these years, I still don't know. Amy, I still don't know, but I survived some strange shit. And I'm here to tell the stories about it. Uh, and with that, and with that, tonight, if you have any small children in the room while you're watching the show, live or the replay, and you've never watched one of my shows, there will be a frequent usage of various and sundry curse words. I do not apologize for my vernacular. It is how I speak. I do kind of control it for the most part and try not to say it too much, but sometimes it slips out, especially when I get excited or annoyed. It does come out. Um, so if you have any children in the room that you don't wish for them to learn any naughty language, please have them go to bed now. Or if they cannot go to bed, please wear a set of earphones to keep them from hearing the words coming out of my mouth. If you yourself are offended by foul language, I will not apologize for that. That is part of my character, part of my vernacular. I do not do it to be sensational. Um, it just is part of the way I speak and part of the way I do my storytelling. I do ask that you do not turn my show off. If you can overlook the naughty words that will come out of my mouth, you will find that I strongly believe that you will find my show quite enjoyable. So stick with it. I know you'll love it. Also, we play a drinking game on my show. All my regulars, you all know the drinking game. For those who do not know, these are the rules. Very simple rules. Every time you hear me say that's a story for another time, that's a story for another day, please take a sip, shot, or gulp of your adult beverage of choice. If you do not imbibe adult beverages, please take and wish to still play the game, please take a sip, shot, or gulp of your non-alcoholic beverage of choice. If you're watching this as a replay, strongly suggest you get a group of friends over to watch the replay so you can play the game together. It's a lot of fun to play live, watching it live, but if you can't watch it live and you got to watch the replay, and you want to play the game, please play the game. With that being said, sorry, I'm really, really low energy tonight, believe it or not. I'm sorry. If you are playing the game tonight and are imbibing adult beverages, please do not drink and drive. Please do not drink and drive. Do not drink and drive. Take an Uber home, take a Lyft home, get a friend to drive you home, or pass out on a couch or floor of your choice, as long as you do not get behind the wheel and endanger yourself or the lives of anyone else out there on the road. And with that, let's talk about tonight's show. Let's begin the tales. I know those who follow me and watch my show with any kind of regularity have heard me touch upon the subject of different objects used in various religious practices, non-mainstream religious practices, I'll just put it that way. Rituals, ceremonies, so on and so forth. And sometimes you'll hear me refer to it as foci. It's F-O-C-I, foci, which is pretty much object. But they are objects that you use when you are conducting a ceremony or a religious practice or a ritual that you have to have with you when you do it. These are essential items that have a place in your belief. Hey, how's it going, dude? Good to see you. Drew. Good to see you tonight. And I will be talking about ritual objects in general. And a lot of people already know about ritual objects for the most part, but I'm going to go over it briefly about the definition of a ritual object and what they're used for. And then I have a few of the objects that I use in my various, in a century, religious practices and ceremonies. But on a side note, I asked my son to go to my big black cabinet of bad things, and everybody who watches my show knows that the big black cabinet of bad things, I keep all kinds of haunted, cursed, um, spiritually active, or objects that resonate crazy amounts of energy. I keep them locked away. And I asked my son to go there because there was a ring that I wanted out of the cabinet. I keep it in the cabinet. It's a ring that I would wear and I still wear during private prayer ceremonies that I do, where I don't have a group of the faithful. I don't have an assistant or anything. It's stuff that I do alone, but it's a ring that I wear, for those who do not know. And he brought me the whole. I have a case. I have several cases in there, and inside the cases, I keep small objects in cases, lots of small objects, and they all they all have a uh, they're all paranormally significant. Let me put it that way. They're all spiritually significant, paranormally significant, and some of them are downright dangerous. But he brought the whole fucking case. He didn't get the ring out. He brought the whole fucking case. It had the ring in it, and there's about 20 other things in that case that I wish he hadn't brought out of that cabinet. And if you want tonight, I'll show you a few of the things that he brought that are in that case and give you a brief story about them. If you want me to split the show up, you guys let me know if you want me to split the show up like that, or if you'd like me to do a separate show on any of the objects that you see tonight. Just keep me in the loop, and I'll let you know. You haven't missed much at all, Drew. Um, um, I'll just pause for a second before I start talking about the definition of ritual objects and show you something in particular. I want you to hear me open the case up, okay? I have the case sitting beside me here. Listen. Okay, the case is now open. It's full of some of the vilest things that I own that are small. It also has some good objects in it too. um, Hell yeah, we want to see them. Papa Joe, you might actually like. Let me show you a few of these objects before we talk about ritual objects. Because even though these objects may be quote unquote um, cursed or haunted, it doesn't necessarily make them bad. It just depends on how you use it. Now, some of these objects are bad. They have some crazy negative energy attached to them. This happens to be one of them. um, I know you all want to see. Everybody see that? It's a Zippo lighter. It has a devil's head on it. It's icy cold, by the way. This thing is fucking freezing. Put that back in the case. It is a Zippo lighter with the head of a devil on it. You're going to hear me repeat this a lot, but it belonged to a murderer from God, what state did he commit his murder? He killed a whole family. He tortured and killed an entire family. He killed 6 people in the house. Um, he used knives. He used knives to torture them with him, and then he used a shotgun to finish them off with it. He was nuts. He was quite insane. Oh God, what city? What town was that? Um, it belonged to him. And he had it on him at the time he committed the murders and killed the whole family. He was nuts. He claimed that he was hearing voices, um, and the voices were telling him that the people in the house were going to hurt him, and the voices said that he needed to hurt them before they hurt him, if I remember the story correctly. Um, so he put together his little bag of torture and got his shotgun, and he went there and he killed people. Um, and he had that Zippo lighter on him the entire time. He had tied up the family to torture them with knives to begin with, and then ended up blowing their heads off at the end. Um, but according to police, said he was using this smoking the entire time he was doing what he was doing, um, torturing and killing the family. And that lighter, he was killed in jail. He was killed by some of the other prisoners. They got their hands on him. I have a sneaky suspicion that the um, the officers at the penitentiary, at the jailhouse, they let that happen. But he was beat to death in the jail. I mean, they beat him to death. They said they couldn't even. They had to identify him with dental records. They had broke every bone in his face. They had beat him to nothing. They had just destroyed him completely. Um, and one of the officers involved, they kept uh, that as a souvenir for whatever dumbass reason. They kept it as a souvenir. It fell into my hands because you know, I was in the town for different reasons after all this had happened. I wasn't there to talk about that, what had happened, the murders there. But this thing, he kept it in a drawer beside his bed. The officer did. Well, the officer kept it in a drawer beside his bed. Um, God, if I can remember the story behind that damn lighter, right? But um, he said he kept having dreams of killing his wife while she slept. Of you know, he would see it. He'd be standing at the foot of the bed and seeing himself standing over his wife with a shotgun and shooting her. And then he would turn around and he would see the man who originally did the murders, who actually committed the murders, was there watching him lighting up a cigarette with that Zippo lighter in the dream. And he said the man would look at him, and after he lit a cigarette and started smoking it, he would just give him a thumbs up and say that good job. And he had that dream for 6 nights straight. It got to the point where he didn't want to go to bed anymore, and he thought it had something to do with this lighter. Um, I actually bought it off of him, I think for like $15. It was all the cash I had because I couldn't get him to donate it to my collection. So I gave him $15 for it, and he took it. Now, when it comes to some objects that are attached to people, one way to break the attachment is by the exchange of either money or goods, to which it breaks the connection. I'll have to explain how that works later, how you can reconnect and make a connection with it. So that's a story for another day. Let's see. Now this one's a little bit more gruesome. This object is. Could it be more gruesome, this shit that I have in this thing? I can't believe he brought this whole fucking thing up here. $15. Hey, do you see what that is, boys and girls? It's a tooth. It's an actual tooth. It's a molar. I probably shouldn't handle this shit with my bare hands. But it is the tooth of a condemned man. He was a child killer here in Virginia. He had raped and killed 3 African American little girls in Southwest Virginia. Mutilated their bodies. he cut some of them up in pieces, and it was three of them, and he scattered their bodies all over the town where they couldn't be found at first. And he was one of the last people to be executed at the Mecklenburg, and this is here in Virginia, at the Mecklenburg facility. Um, they don't have that. They stopped. He was the last person to go to electric chair there, and then he took the electric chair out, and they went to lethal injection, shit like that. How did I get the tooth, you may ask? He was a vile human being. They say that he laughed until they threw the switch and he got electrocuted and died. He was laughing the entire time. He was unrepentant about what he did. Um, Completely and utterly batshit crazy too, apparently. But he was laughing the whole time. They slipped him the juice and fried his ass there. Uh, I needed I needed the tooth of a condemned man. God, am I really going to confess this? His family didn't collect his body, okay? And he was buried in a state cemetery. Um, he was buried in a state cemetery. But before he was taken out, for those who don't know, one of the things that I studied was mortuary sciences. And I had an apprenticeship with various funeral homes and other places. So I had access to his body at the time before he was buried. And at the time I needed the tooth of a condemned man for a charm that I was working on. I'm gonna actually confess this. What can they do to me? Nothing now. Statute of limitations, boys and girls. Um, I know. Don't think any less of your old pal, the Naked Bigfoot, for the shit that he's done. I tried to pull one of his teeth out at first, and I broke it off. Um, when we took him out to be buried, and when they bury you in that cemetery, they bury you literally in a cardboard box and put you in the ground. It's a pressed wood cardboard box when they put you in the ground. They don't cremate you at all. Um, I went back because I had to have a whole tooth. It had to have the roots and everything attached to it. So I went back in the cover of night to the state cemetery. I dug it up. I dug him up, and I got the tooth out. By then, he had rotted enough to where I could get the entire tooth out without it breaking off. And that's how I got the tooth. I wish I hadn't. The charm worked, by the way. The charm I was working on worked. That I was doing actually worked quite well, actually. I call it a charm, but it was more of a summoning that I did. Um, but this tooth right here, um, you can hear someone laughing when you hold it. Someone's in the room with you laughing when you hold it. Um, Laughing like I guess he was when they electrocuted him in Mecklenburg. So it's a piece of him that still has part of his life to it. Um, this, I probably shouldn't show you all this because I get into a lot of trouble, probably. So I'd have to explain to you where I got this at. Um, I'm only going to give you a flash of it. Flash. Can you see it? Okay, that's an exorcist ring. It's an actual, it's not a reproduction. It's an actual, from the exorcist, the order of exorcists in the Catholic Church of the Holy See. They're given to members of the Holy See that are, their private army of exorcists wear those rings. A lot of people have heard of them. A lot of people have seen them. But only those people actually wear the real thing. Because this is holy silver. It's holy cast and struck silver. The ring itself, from what I understand, um, cast from blessed silver. And then, while it's still warm, they etch uh, the symbols into it, into the top of it, um, which aids them in their exorcist. It also is a symbol of their office. Um, you want to hear how I got it? I met an exorcist, a fucking real exorcist, a bona fide exorcist, member of the Holy See of the Catholic Church, who was a member of the Order of Exorcists, or Exorcismo, or whatever, how the fuck you say it. He made a bet with me. um, oh my god. He bet me. Okay. I'm not sure if I want to finish telling this story or not. What he bet me to. Um, First of all, it took place in Arkansas, where I met this priest at. It was in Arkansas. Can't remember the town off the top of my head, but I know why I was there. I'd gotten done doing an investigation, investigating the Ozark Howler. Um, some recent sightings of the Ozark Howler. And I wanted to go and see a couple of pre-Civil War cemeteries. And apparently one of the local Catholic priests had died, and he was being buried in a cemetery nearby. And uh, the the priest, who was from the order of, the Exorcist and the Holy See, um, he was there because apparently that priest was a friend of his that died. I mean, he passed away from natural causes. He didn't get killed by the devil or any shit like that. And I saw the ring on his hand. I wanted the ring so bad. Objects like this, holy objects like this, it'll actually attach to tonight's conversation about ritual objects. You can use holy objects. Now, I'm not saying that it's imbued with the spirit of Catholic gods or anything. It's imbued with the power of belief, and that power behind that belief. You can tap into that power and use it to power all types of wonderful rituals with, and all kinds of things with. So there's nothing evil about it. um, You say I stole it? No, I didn't steal it. I did not steal it. I wanted fair and square. Um, I wanted fair and square. No, I didn't do any special favors for the priest. um, I had a pretty decent. I would do pretty much anything on a dare, okay? And after the funeral, I walked over from the cemetery over to where the funeral was, because I love funerals. I love attending funerals. Um, you learn so much about people's faiths and beliefs when you're at a funeral, when you go to another funeral. And I planted myself there. I stood out like a sore thumb when I was there. I was, number one, covered in dirt, because I was crawling around a pre-Civil War cemetery, reading small etched stones, um, learning about who was buried out there. And We started talking. We struck up a conversation at the end of the service, and the priest was buried. We struck up a conversation. Um, walking back to the walking back to the church, struck up a conversation with him. I love talking to priests of of the holy men of different religions and practices. I love talking to them, and I saw the ring and I recognized it on his hand. So I started talking about what he did. He shared. It was no big secret. He was quite proud to be a warrior for God. To be one of the Holy See's knights against evil, against the devil and the demons. Um, I'm not going to finish telling that story. Needless to say, there was a lot of alcohol involved, mostly moonshine, because at the time I had about 2 gallons of it in milk jugs in back of my car. He said he had never tried it before, so I shared it with him. We got drunk. It involved me um, going back to the cemetery butt ass naked and running around the cemetery butt ass naked. Um, he was a man of his word, and he gave me that ring for winning the bet. But he was also drunk as fuck too. I don't think he if he was not as drunk as he was, he probably would never have given me that ring or bet that ring in the first place because he knew I was fascinated by it. But long story short, I got the ring, and it's quite powerful. I enjoy that ring a great deal. Oh God, what else is in here? Oh, is that the black ring? Oh, that's the black ring. The onyx ring. That's going to have to be a story for another day. Oh, the ring. Oh, um, I have a ring of Baphomet. Um, I attended one of their ceremonies. It was a cult of Baphomet. I attended one of the cult of Baphomet ceremonies out of curiosity. Um, I was asked earlier, without naming names, how many churches I'd been to, different religious groups I'd been to. But I went to the cult of Baphomet, and I scored one of their rings that their high priests wear. Yay! I'm gonna put that back because that ring is really fucked up. It messes with your mind, that ring does. But the one ring tonight I wanted to talk about, I'm gonna pull it out and close this fucking box back up before something crawls up my ass for having it open for so long. Okay. This ring is not. This ring actually has a sad story attached to it. I like wearing this ring, but it does have a sad story attached to it. But before I tell that sad story, let's get back on topic. I figured you guys would enjoy that quick little story of some of the interesting things in that case. And trust me, boys and girls, there's more in that case than what I showed you. A lot more. Oh, fuck me. Mm. Yeah, the priest story. If there be a hell, then I would most likely be burning in a jelly-like hell. Whew, I can't breathe. Hold on. It smells like smoke in here, too. Okay. Sorry. I got dizzy there for a few minutes. It happens. Lack of oxygen makes you dizzy. Um, My blood oxygen level sucks balls, by the way, for those who are wondering. Okay, I put this ring on, actually. I'll show it to you. See that ring? It's old as fuck if you can't tell. Okay, I'll show it to you again when I talk about it. I don't mind wearing this one. This ring is fun to wear. It's not fun to wear, but it's you'll understand in a few moments. Okay, ritual objects. Ritual objects, by their definition, these are not simple household objects. Most people who set up altars or prayer spaces or ceremonial spaces or sacred spaces, um, they have a number of tools that they use to help them in their faith. Now, most of these tools could be anywhere from like a brass plate, a bowl for offerings, a brass plate for offerings, bells that are rung for different effect, um, stones, crystals, anything, depending on whatever your belief system happens to what your belief system calls for. Because all belief systems out there, you have to think about that. I'm not just I hate the word pagan. Oh gods, I hate the word pagan. That's one. Okay, everybody knows I do not get insulted easily, but if you ever want to fucking insult me, is referred to me as a pagan. That's insulting. That is a bad word to use. It was meant as an insult back when that word first came into being and was being used. People who use it now wear it like a badge of honor. No, it's still a fucking insult, okay? Most religions, true religions and beliefs, are old. Um, Much older than any of the current mainstream faiths and beliefs that are out there now. But in order to denigrate it and try to, for those faiths that they couldn't incorporate into themselves or convert the followers, they were labeled as pagans and persecuted. So that word is a bad word. I do not like that word, but I'm going to use it tonight so everybody can understand what I'm talking about. The objects that are used during during a ritual or during worship, these are objects that are prescribed by that particular faith or religion or belief to use. Now, it's not like getting a butter knife out and using that. You just can't pull anything out of your ass and say, this is going to be my ritual object for this. These objects are there to be a part of your belief. They're there to focus your energy, to focus the energy of the spirits around you into the deities that you may believe in, or the energies that you're praying to. These are focus objects that help you. These objects, once you begin using them, they are imbued with a spirit of their own. They're imbued with the spirit of your belief. They're imbued with the spirits of your belief. They're imbued with the gods of your belief. So on and so forth. These objects become essential. These objects become like a crucifix at a church. They become the focal point of your belief. And you would naturally use these objects when you go in to help pay reverence to that belief and to practice that belief. Now, one object in particular, I find that a lot of faiths and beliefs in many cultures around the world, they use ritual knives. And like I said, those who may have seen the thumbnail I have for tonight's episode, it's of a ritual knife that I use for all kinds of shit. But I'll tell you that in a moment about that. That knife, like whether it be called a leaf blade, it has many names, the knives that are used. Whether they're called athames, a leaf blade. Um, in Indian beliefs and Tibetan beliefs, there's the furba blade. Um, a furba blade is most people used to believe that. Fun fact for tonight, kids: the furba, Tibetan furba, which is also used in a lot of Indian beliefs, a lot of Indian practices as well. Some of the more obscure Indian practices, um, Hindu practices, I should say, not just Indian. That's being rude. Um, the original furbas were used to for human sacrifice and for some animal sacrifice too. They were bloodletting, but over time, those sacrifices were phased out when the faiths and religions became more peaceful. So the furba became more of an object, a ceremonial object that could be brought out to help focus the will of the worshiper at the time. No longer being used to commit a blood sacrifice, uh, but still being the center and the central focal point of their belief system. Again, relegated to more of a ceremonial purpose, a focus object purpose than what it was originally used for. So if God, don't ask me to spell Furba tonight. Ugh. So you can guys look it up. A Furba's depending on the deity that the Furba was decorated to represent certain deities. So it would have the faces of that deity on it. It was always the blade was 4 to 6 sided. The hilt would be 4 to 6 sided as well, adorned with the likenesses of the deity in question. That's the description of the Furba. And a lot of the old Druidic practices, they would have what was called a leaf blade that was made out of copper. The blade itself would be shaped like a leaf. It would not have a handle, so to speak. It would um, it would be fixed. The handle would be something you could slide your fingers into and hold it. Um, it was used to conduct ceremonies with. It also was used to conduct blood ceremonies with, to sacrifice ceremonies. But it was also used as a ritual object. Say, for if you had to harvest herbs, if you had to harvest plants or mistletoe berries or something like that, you would use this ritual object since it's been blessed um, by by the spirits in question, by the gods in question. That blessed ritual blade would be used to help harvest uh, items that you would use in other rituals or um, for healing purposes, sometimes with poisoning purposes. But again, it would also be used in some of the more atavistic, ooh, that's a big word for tonight, isn't it? Atavistic. And some of the more atavistic bloodletting rites. When, for instance, this is an old Pictish. I'll have to tell the Picts will have to be a story for another day. But my friends who live in and around Great Britain, and you know your British history about the islands there, you know about the Picts and some of and the Pictish people. Ugh. One of the things that the Picts would do when the head of the leader of their faith, when he became too old to conduct the ceremonies properly, the person that was his second um, would cut the throat of him and ritually cut his throat using that blade. Um, and that would be considered like an atavistic act. They would cut his throat with that blade. They would smear the blood from his throat on their body. They would draw symbols of their deities and of their faith on their body, um, which would then help them become the head of their faith, the center of the faith of that particular Pictish tribe. And he would be, and the older gentleman who had his throat slit, he would be buried in a sacred mound near the village. So, God, how do I know this shit? That's what you're probably asking yourself, right? Again, that's a story for another day. And again, in some of the more witchy, now we're talking about true witchcraft, not. I'm gonna try to say this without sounding like an asshole. Um, Not Wicca, not New Age, especially not Wicca. Ugh. Talking about true fucking witchcraft. You know, bell, book, and candle, fucking bloody witchcraft. They would have their athame, which is another, it's a knife. It's a sacred knife. That was again used in different rituals, and as a ritual object. It'd be one of the foci, one of the tools being used during their rites and ceremonies and spell casting. It would also be used to help collect herbs and different animal and body part and human body parts used in various rites and ceremonies. That athame would be used for it. Now, the athame just wouldn't be used for harvesting or bloodletting. It was also used as an object, as a spiritual object, to help gather the spirits about them by pointing to where they would want to gather the spirits with. And they would use the tip of it to draw and open the door to let them come through and draw the spirits to that location. Or as far as it was explained to me and how I observed it, I have a very, I have a very good relationship with a local coven. Crazy bitches, batshit crazy, but very powerful and strong in their belief, and I respect that about them a great deal. And they introduced me to that. Plus, they buy a lot of herbs off of me too. Just not herb like marijuana, boys and girls. I know it's your thing because your old pal the naked Bigfoot does like to smoke the ganja. It just fucking happens. I do smoke. Well, I used to smoke. Can't smoke anymore, but I used to smoke. Um, but I also have an amazing collection of various plants and herbs that grow here on the property that can't be found anywhere else. So, and I'd sell it to them for money or exchange it for other things that I wanted. So, because they make some really damn good candles too. I'd sell them the beeswax, and they would make the candles and exchange them for my herbs sometimes. So, but that's a story for another day, boys and girls. Now let's get to voodoo. Um, the knife that I use now, some strains of the Voodoo faith, they use other types of blades. They'll use a fucking sacred butcher knife. I shit you not. There's such thing as a sacred butcher knife. For those who don't know what a butcher knife is, I'll have to explain that to you another day. It's not what you think it is. You use it in your home as well as in the ceremony. So use it in your home to get your dinner prepared, and then you go outside and use it to slaughter a goat. Butcher knife. But I was told that the time would come to where I would need to have my own. I would need to have my own ceremonial blade. I did not want a machete. I did not want a butcher knife. I wanted something that would be sacred to my faith, but also meet my aesthetic as well. Luckily, I knew quite a few blade makers out there in the world back in the day. I still know them. Some of them owed me favors, and one blade maker in particular, he agreed, to you know, pay his debt off to me for something that I did for him. to forge me a blade to my specifications. And that is that blade. It's quite beautiful, isn't it? It's a Damascus. It's Damascus steel, for those who don't know. It's done in a raindrop pattern. God, I sound like I'm sounds like I'm doing one of those midnight knife shows on television. It's made out of 100% pure craponite. No, it's not craponite, it's Damascus steel. It's sharp as a motherfucker too, I'll tell you that. Done in a raindrop pattern, hand forged. Everything about this was handmade to my exacting standards. What were those exacting standards, you may ask? And then I'll tell you what I use it for. It was his idea to do Damascus steel because he wanted to do something cool for me. So I said, okay, we'll do Damascus steel. At the time, I didn't know what the fuck Damascus steel was, so I got to learn, when I was in his forge when he was doing it. I know I am a infomercial. um, but I had to cool it in a the steel once it was forged and it was being heat treated and tempered. It had to be cooled in a mixture of bloods and blessed water. Um, my blood, of course, um, goat's blood, and I've been admitting tonight to a lot of questionable shit that I did. Some of it illegal. I've admitted to a lot tonight, so here we go. Here we go. Okay, the third blood that I had to use was cadaver blood. Okay, I had to go out and it ain't as easy to get as you may think. I had to go to a funeral home to get the blood. Because most funeral practices and most state laws here in the United States, you cannot, you cannot inter an unembalmed family, an unembalmed body. It has to be embalmed. There are special circumstances and special cases based upon religious reasons. Um, but I needed blood. And I went there. It didn't take much. I knew, I don't know, he's still alive. Mr. Shorter's still alive. No, he's not alive, but I think his son and his grandson still run the funeral home. And it was his son. His son was in the room when I went there and requested a quart of blood. It didn't matter. It just had to be it just had to come out of a dead body. And after a lot of discussion, I got a quart of blood. And I got the goat's blood. And I had my blood that I added to it. Not a quart of it, mind you, but a good amount of my blood and a lot of goat's blood. And we quenched the knife in the blood. And the container that we quenched it in was prepared with veves, which were symbols of the various loa that I was invoking to bless the blade at the time. It was really funky too, by the way. Boiling and burning blood stinks really bad, just to let you know. That's a smell that does not go away. Okay, so that's how the knife was made, for the most part. Um, but that's how all blades are sanctified and more or less, because the offshoots of hoodoo, Santeria, and a few other offshoots of the faith, they have different ways of creating their blessed blade. Um, but they all involve blood of some sort. Sometimes they don't have to get a hand forged one to do it with, but being a Hungan and being more of the purest strain, um, closest to the original faith in Africa, A hand forged blade, made sense. Um, I couldn't go to Walmart and buy a blade and do that at all. It wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. But I could have bought a hand forged blade that was already hand forged and tried to bless it. But doing it this way, being in the forge while he was doing it and quenching it the way that we quenched it, assured that it was blessed properly and it would do what I needed it to do. And what is that, you may ask? Okay. The blade is used in Voodoo mainly for bloodletting ceremonies. Whether it's letting your own blood, it's letting the sacrifices blood, whether it be a goat, whether it be a chicken, whether it be a horse. I know everybody loves when I talk about horses. Um, Dude, have a great night. Thanks for staying for as long as you can, man. I appreciate you being here. It's used mainly um, for bloodletting. It is also used um, to draw. Now, it's also used to draw veves in sand and flour, um, which are, again, sacred symbols that represent Lois that allow you to contact them and get their attention. It is their name in symbol form. And when you inscribe it, especially with a holy blade, um, it's like ringing a huge gong. It gets their attention. They begin to focus. You can feel them focusing directly upon you. They looking right at your soul, and you know they're looking at you. And you can continue. Once you do that, you can continue on with the ritual using the blade. But that is not the only thing that we use in the Voodoo religion, in voodoo. Um, we also use now jewelry. There are ritual items that don't involve blades or icky stuff like that, or teeth, bones, shit like that. Um, there are other objects that people wear, like articles of clothing, like robes, like necklaces, like headdresses, like masks, that are all treated just like the blade. They're all imbued with the essence and the power of the spirits and faith that you prescribe to, that you subscribe and prescribe to. Ooh. They all have that energy imbued within them and can be used for those purposes. There are people who wear crystals, necklaces, they wear crystal bracelets. Um, uh, I met he was a fascinating character, what I'm getting ready to tell you guys. But he made, for those out in the Midwest, you'll know what I'm talking about, what sweetgrass is. Let me know if you all know what sweetgrass is. It burns really funny, sweetgrass does. But sweetgrass can be woven into actual fucking pieces of jewelry, like bracelets, rings, and so on and so forth. Um, he was what I refer to, and that's a story for another day, how I met this guy when I was out in Colorado. But he was a wild man. He was one of the wild men of the woods. He was not homeless, a crazy homeless guy. He was truly a wild man of the woods. He was a shaman of the woods. And all of the ritual objects that he used were things that he made from the natural materials from the woods that were blessed by nature and the spirits of nature and the elements of nature. And he made sweetgrass bracelets and rings and necklaces that he wove from sweetgrass. Um, I don't know where he got all that damn sweetgrass at. I think it was it Colorado? Was it Nebraska? It was in the Midwest. If it comes to me, I'll fucking tell you, remember, because I can give you specific locations, but I'm old and tired and I can't remember. All I can remember is that he made the shit. He wore very little clothing, so he would flash his balls. You would see his balls constantly when he got up and sat down. I mean, he had no shame whatsoever. Ass cracking, balls out, wieners out, people. um, but his objects were natural objects like that. And he would wear them when he was conducting his ceremonies and praying. Well, rings can be used as well as ritual objects, and that ring I showed you earlier that I'm wearing right now, it's imbued with the spirit of my spiritual father, the man who brought me into the faith. This was his ring. This was handmade in Haiti and was given to him by his father. Um, and then Papa Thomas, before he died, he passed it along to me. It's imbued um, with the energy and life of the ancestors, of that lineage of ancestors, of great holy men in my faith. And when I practice my faith alone, and I want to feel Papa Thomas and his ancestors and my ancestors, I want them to be in the room with me, I wear this ring. And I use it to, I feel comforted by the energy from this ring. It's like they've got their arms around me. They've surrounded me, and I feel their arms around me when I wear this ring during those ceremonies. Um, it meant a lot to him when he got it from his father, and it means a lot to me when I got it from him. Um, Again, he didn't have children that he could pass it along to. I was his child. And I break it out on um, very special occasions, very special ritual occasions, and I bring it into play when I want them to I want them to stand beside me, and to be in the room with me spiritually when I do certain things. Now, when I am going to give this ring to my son. My son was not brought into the faith, but it's his choice if he wants to come into the faith or not. It's his choice. I will not deny him that choice. That's what it's always about, people. It's personal choice, the freedom to choose. But if he chooses the faith, I will love him. If he does not choose to follow the faith, I'll still love him. And he'll always know that love with this ring. If he puts it on, if he ever wants to feel me and have me stand beside him or stand with him for any decision that he ever wants to make, he will have this ring of the ancestors, this ring of his ancestors, of my ancestors, of Papa Thomas's ancestors. He'll have all of us to stand beside him. As soon as he puts it on, we'll be there for him and help him through what he needs us to help him through. I told you, not everything that came out of that case is questionable or evil. This ring is not one of them. This ring is very, very special. Incredibly special. Very strong. And I'll tell you what, it has slipped off my finger over the years, but I have never lost it. It always shows back up somewhere near me where I can find it. I would be in the woods and the ring would slip off my hand, and I thought I'd lost it forever. And then I would wake up the next morning and put my pants on, and it's in the pocket of my pants. It shows up in one of my pockets. I'm not going to try to explain how it got there. I've never tried to explain how it got there. But I know it's linked to me now. It'll be linked to my son come his time. Well, guys, it looks like we've hit that magic hour again. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and listening to my tale. I want to thank everybody who will be watching this as a replay. Love you long time, everybody. If you like what you saw tonight, please hit the like button. If you have not subscribed to my channel and wish to, no peer pressure, feel free to subscribe. You can keep track of me better then when I do shows or if I put up some of my crazy ass videos. Some of my shorts that I do. I've gotten into doing short videos now, so they're all irreverent, nothing serious. If you've been playing the drinking game tonight, um, by now you're probably drunk as fuck. So take care of yourself and do not drink and drive. Do not drink and drive. As always, I look forward to seeing you all next time on What the Fuck Paranormal Chats with the Naked Bigfoot. I am your humble host, Mike the Naked Bigfoot, wishing everybody a great night.